So why should everyone care about obesity? Even if you don't have obesity or know someone with obesity, why should you care? The overall cost of obesity on this nation is huge, huge. And so even if it doesn't affect you personally from a disease perspective, it is affecting your taxes. And people in this country care about their wallets. So if you care about your wallet, you should care about obesity. I'm Dr. Evan. I am a pediatric bariatric surgeon who's been in this field for 20 years, taking care of the sickest of the sick, and here to sort of just give you my 2 cents since we're talking about money today, but hopefully my 2 cents are worth a whole lot more than that. So about 15 years ago, there was a study that showed that the estimated cost, annual cost for the medical care of patients with obesity, and this is mostly related to not to treat their obesity, but it's to treat the complications of their obesity, hypertension, diabetes, those kinds of things, was $147 billion. That's with a B. Today, some estimate that it's over $1 trillion. So that's about 9% of the US gross domestic product, which a bunch of letters and words and stuff that you might not care about, but it's a ton of money. $1 trillion is a ton of money. And if it's affecting 140 million Americans and it's costing us $1 trillion, why haven't we done something about it, right? Like, it makes no sense, but that's where we are. And it's probably mostly because of stigma and bias, because if you just eat less and exercise more, you won't have this disease. The policymakers think it's a lifestyle choice, but it's not. And we've said this over and over, it's a disease. And there's something you can do about it. What have people tried to do about this on a policy level or on a cost level? Certain cities and certain places have what's called the sugar sweetened beverage tax. And we've talked about how sugar is definitely the first step in anybody managing their weight, limiting the amount of sugar they take in. And if the food industry and beverage industry would just put less sugar into what we eat and drink, that would go a long way. We're probably not gonna be able to convince them to do that since it makes them so much money. So there've been lots of studies about this sugar sweetened beverage tax. And a lot of people who say it works. But the problem is the data says it doesn't. So it does limit consumption of sugar products to some degree, but it doesn't decrease obesity rates. And it's never been shown. In fact, most of the studies don't even try to show that because they know that their study will be negative and they don't want to waste their study. So like one quote was that evidence from the empirical evaluation of the impact of the sugar tax is scarce. And what that means is that there's nothing supporting the sugar sweetened beverage tax. Now, again, I'm for sure totally in favor of anything that makes us healthier as a country and as a nation, but it bugs me because it's the narrow-mindedness of thinking that it's just diet and exercise that causes obesity, and that obesity is a lifestyle choice. So if we just make sugar too expensive, obesity will go away. Way too simplistic, never gonna happen. We spend way too much money on that sort of policy and not enough investigating the things that work, like medicines and surgery. And if we would put our focus more on treatment, obesity treatment is obesity prevention, it would all make more sense. But that's not what we do. We just keep banging our heads against the diet and exercise wall, right? There are hundreds of studies in the medical literature that show that diet and exercise doesn't work to treat obesity. And even the proponents of changing food and beverage say that it's gonna take 2 generations of less sugar, better exercise, better places to exercise, all that stuff that people talk about all the time. 2 generations, so that's 50 years. So what's anybody supposed to do now who has the disease? Just cross their fingers and hope that they're around in 50 years to get some of the benefit, reap some of the benefit? No, again, makes no sense. Yet that's what we talk about. It's politically expedient. It's easy to talk about diet and exercise. It's really hard to talk about treating obesity, and let's support treating obesity and how that's gonna help people. That's not a winning political argument, unfortunately, in today's era. But that's what we do. And why do we do that? It's probably mostly stigma and bias. And that's gonna be the focus of our next episode, stigma and bias. And probably most of you who are watching this don't need me to tell you about stigma and bias because you see it every day, you feel it every day. But I'm hoping that there are gonna be other people who found this channel and start to watch, because I'm hoping that you're sharing it with your friends, your neighbors, your family, and they might learn something if they just like tune in and hear about what the real facts are and what the impact is on not only you, but society as a whole. So again, post comments, give me feedback, like, dislike, I don't even care, just participate. Subscribe to the channel. Definitely tune into the next video because we're gonna get into some, uncomfortable topics for people, like treating people with respect and understanding that obesity is a disease. So rally the troops, get them to sign on next time, and I'll see you then.